welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashaye. Today on the program, I will be with Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, well-known pundit, former Minister of External Affairs, head of Nigerian Institute of International Affairs.
It was not only an inspection, it was a moment in cultural dialectics. Full of energy, Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi showed me the facade of the new railway headquarters in Lagos and remarked, "Is there any place as iconic?" A boyish glee was suppressed in his voice. I looked at the impressive facade and I said, "Iconic?" I said, when I hear the word, I think of National Theatre, not the railway headquarters. He was driving and swerved into the large, sprawling compound, and we undertook a tour. It is an impressive spectacle, and I said it drew my mind to my visit to New York's Grand Central Station, and of course the Hauptbahnhof in Berlin. The place is complete with waiting area that can sit at least 2,000 persons and transport 1 million passengers a month, more than all of our airports in 1 year. It has a mall, a suite of offices, state-of-the-art electronic boards, steps and escalators. It is such a cheer to see such an edifice in Nigeria, in spite of the killings and fear in the land. When we were done, the minister returned to the word. I said it was not an icon. It had not even been launched. He asked me to look up the word in the dictionary and searched Google, and it read, an image, emblem, idol, or hero. He insisted he was right, along with the Nigerian Railway Corporation's managing director and few of his team. A building, no matter how impressive, did not make an icon until human beings turn it into a cultural experience. Humans make icons, things don't. But I understand where Amechi was coming from. He was eager to institutionalize the edifice. Time will shape things. I conceded, though, that it is potentially iconic.
You're welcome to this show, sir.
Thank you very much, Sam.
You are well versed in international affairs in terms of experience, in terms of erudition, and also in terms of looking through various epochs in world history. This year has been especially interesting. Is there any time in the world that you can compare to what you have gone through in the past, say, 9-10 months?
Well, historically, yes. There are periods that I can produce from history, not in my lifetime. So, not in my lifetime, but to calm the nerves of people. 1918, there was a pandemic that killed more people than this pandemic has killed. It was called the Spanish flu.
Influenza. Yeah.
Scientists are now saying that the Spanish people were giving a bad rap, that actually the influenza didn't come from them. But let's not go too far into history. Before then, there was another pandemic that was supposed to have been brought by rats,
Yes.
called the Black Plague. Exactly. Yes. And then before that, so look, the point I'm trying to make is there have been pandemics in world history. And it will look like it's a natural way to deal with our overpopulation of the planet. or our carelessness about dealing with the planet. And in the past 100 years, since the Spanish plague, influenza, we've had Ebola. We have had there was this camel, Middle East SARS. We've had them. It's just that this is the one that is global. And because this is...
That's what I was trying to ask.
Uh-huh.
Is this not the real pandemic? Because some of those narratives, some people say they are because of Western narratives. That's why they say the Black Plague is pandemic. It was actually a European plague. Some people would say maybe it touched some parts of Asia and so on. There was the other one also in the US and so on.
Well, no, Sam. Let us say it's because the media is now more global. I have read some narratives that show thousands died in Lagos during the Spanish plague or influenza. Thousands died in Lagos, and then it also went into the hinterland. The reason we now know about this is because there were narratives put down by British colonial officers about, what brought what into the Lagos colony. And so really, I think that those plagues got to us. They were not recorded. But this one now cannot be hidden. We are now part of the global village. And we are now going through this.
Yeah, people say that the Spanish influenza touched here because just on the cusp of the First World War, we're experiencing actually the first instances of globalization at that time, unlike in the time of the Black Plague or the others, because even before the First World War, it was then that some of the inventions that actually became disruptive in world history started to really come down, like the postal service, the railways, and even the air traffic and so on. So they said that, well, the Spanish influenza may be the first real pandemic because it was a time that the world actually started understanding the meaning of interconnectedness and interconnection.
Well, again, as a scholar, I will take issues with that because what was slavery? Even though that was a negative manifestation of the interconnectivity between us and them. And those sailors, with all their diseases, were coming into Africa. Look at what happened. I know this is a sideline. Look at what happened in the United States after the so-called pilgrims came in. The diseases they brought in wiped out.
Yes, wiped out so many of them.
So many. And when the Spaniards went into Latin America, smallpox, which those people didn't have, they brought them in. So really, we thank God that, we have the social media and media like this, where we can now tell our own story. At that time, nobody would have come to Africa to interview whether those slave ships brought any virus or any bacteria with them, and whether it has affected us. Nobody will come. I mean, look at when the British went to Benin and devastated the Benin Kingdom and then stayed. Who knows what they brought with them?
Those were the beginnings of the colonial implantation of colonial rule and structures in the country. Now that was they are now coming up with solutions and so on. Is it that this is a pointer to the concept of progress in human history, that within a year, unlike in former plagues, within a year, some kind of answer has now come up? Is it? Do you subscribe to this concept of human progress? Because there are some philosophers who believe, like Hannah Arendt, who never believe in the concept of progress, that, what we have are usually cosmetic. We get some things done, but the concept of evil and the concept of human suffering, the concept of inequalities, they are still profound in human society, and some people say they are even worse.
I will agree with that narrative that they are profound and that they are still embedded in our human civilizational DNA. The difference this time is that the victims of the pandemic are global. We've lost, to my knowledge, we've lost one prime minister within the past 2 weeks, the prime minister of Swaziland.
Yes.
He died. We've lost one former head of state, J.J. Rawlings. And within the past few days, how many prime ministers and presidents in Europe have come down with it, starting with Macron? And because they were being reckless about what I will call...
And Trump.
They are being reckless about the COVID-19 diplomacy in terms of exposure of themselves. So many heads of states in Europe have had to go into isolation. This is why within 9 months, we've had a new vaccine. Another reason is because they have cut corners. I'm not saying this to frighten people who are normally frightened about vaccines. I'm not frightened about vaccines. I'm frightened about the needle. If they could only come up with vaccines without needles, I will roll up my sleeve.
Maybe you can just close your eyes and then the needle goes in.
I know that needle is coming. Even with my eyes closed. I wish you would go and do an interview with my medical doctor. It's a battle, But they are cutting corners. And some of the negative effects of cutting corners are becoming manifest. They had already started the vaccination in Britain before the Americans now told her, because they took their time, that if you are pregnant, don't take it. If you are breastfeeding, don't take it. If you have if you normally react to certain things, there were 5, and if you are aged, I think, is it 16?
Yeah.
And below,
don't take it. In some,
Moderna
says 18. Yes.
We still don't know. Now, under normal circumstances, they would have spent years going through
about 2-3 years,
so that by the time they then say, oh, this has been approved, they will give you all those conditions. Even right now, ordinary aspirin, if you take the pack in which it comes and you open that paper, there will be, that's
certain cautionary
features.
Yeah.
There is no medicine that does not have its own cautionary tale. But this one, the number of people who will die from maybe being the number of people who will die from what will you call it? All right, being the vaccine not being compatible with them will be less than the number that will die from catching the COVID-19. And that's why they say, let us rush it.
Yes.
Some people will still die, but more people will be saved.
Yeah.
But one thing, though, that still bothers me is why a vaccine developed in Germany and still the European Union, as of today, 2 weeks or so after Britain has approved, after it's been approved in the US, will still not approve it in Europe. this not good. Because as I said earlier on, you have a lot of people who are wary about this vaccination. And you are strengthening their argument. They will point
To those people.
to Europe. So why couldn't this thing have been better coordinated? Or
Is it a continuation of the battle of Brexit? Because some people have used the language of UEFA, the metaphors of UEFA, to explain why Europe has not approved, but the UK has approved, and stuff like that. Are they bringing extraneous factors into the vaccine thing? Because
I would know. You've raised a good point. To prove the Brexit point, did Britain rush to be the first one to do this? All right, Britain has made its point. Why is the European Union still waiting? This is not good for the attitude of people towards the vaccine. It's not good. I think
for those who fear,
for those who fear it, for those who believe in the conspiracy theory. Another kind of thing. They could have done this much better. Much better coordination. The human race is in danger because this vaccine actually is going to affect our DNA. Because I understand that it is going to replace that part of the DNA that recognizes and reacts and copes with pandemics. Now, is it every time we now have a pandemic that
we have to get
our DNA? What's then going to be left with us by the time we've had to take so many vaccines? And don't forget, there are those who claim that the way we react to animals, lack of our respect for animals, giving them their space, is part of the reason why we are catching all this pandemic, this transmission from animals to human beings. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. But they don't know either. And that's why we are flopping from side to side. They don't know. Doctors don't know.
Also, as a spin-off of this pandemic is the whole question of the world order. You know, this pandemic began with China, and China seems to have turned the corner, while the United States is neck deep in it, and Europe is neck deep in it. And some people have said this is quite, some people call it natural correction, as it were, in favor of China. In a pandemic world, does it mean that this is a leg up for China, not only in terms of building its own economy, because it is the economy that actually enhances your military power and so on. So what are your thinking about this?
We don't know the truth. The truth has been one of the victims of this pandemic. I looked at you when you say, well, it started from Wuhan. In the past 1 week, there have been question marks about whether it really started from Wuhan or it started from another province in China, and that Wuhan is just getting the rap. Because that was the first place where it became evident that something was wrong.
Yeah.
Number two, China has billions of people that you don't really know. If they lose 5 million and they don't tell you, you won't know.
You know, yeah.
So truth has been a victim in this whole thing. I'm not happy with China that it has taken so long for the World Health Organization delegation to be given
access.
Then it means, you see, I mean, you know, we have this proverb in Nigeria. They call you a thief. You say, no, I'm not a thief. But here you are playing with the kid of a goat.
Yes.
So where did you get that from? So if you know your hands are clean, why don't you say, come in.
Transparency.
Look for all you want to look. It is in our favor and in the favor of the world that we know the truth about this, not because we want to condemn China, but we want to prepare for the next pandemic. And there is that other narrative that this thing was created in the lab. Nobody knows the truth.
Nobody knows, yeah.
So let people come, let scientists come in and let us know the truth. If it was created in the lab, China is too big for anybody to go to war against.
Too big.
But it's just that we will now know what to do, because China must know that no person is an island unto itself. If you think you've taken care of it in China, unless you stop all flights to China, unless you stop all birds flying into China,
You cannot be sure.
you cannot be sure who is going to transmit it to you. So we don't know.
What of the question of world order?
COVID-19 has rewritten our history. Okay? It's ruined the world economy. It has not affected the military capability of countries. But eventually, if your economy is ruined, eventually it is going to affect your power status. That's number one. Number two, COVID-19 has affected the way we conduct diplomacy. The United Nations this year couldn't have its General Assembly. And you may think that the General Assembly is just talk. It's more than that. Because at times from
Interactions
and, face-to-face diplomacy,
yeah.
at times something clicks. And it's from that clicking that you get a solution to a problem. They couldn't make this year. We Africans, or our African leaders, have been rather sensible. AU, ECOWAS, and what have you, have been rather sensible in terms of avoiding face-to-face diplomacy and continuing to use virtual diplomacy. But in Europe, where they've been rather reckless about it, well, you could just say what's happened to their head of states. By the time COVID-19 is over, what kind of a world order are we going to have?
The second part of this interview will be brought to you next week.
7 years on, your first mates in captivity. Neither the anniversary nor the top status makes light that night. When Chibok was not just a little place sleeping beneath the world's eyes. An exodus appended, just like your name, Leah, could not escape the spy and trespasser.
Thank you for watching today's program. You can catch up with my published column on www.samomashaye.com. And until next time, be good.